For the camera, which would you like? Sure,
Thank
no
you so
problem.
much. Yeah. You ready?
All right, I'm rolling.
All right, so we're rolling. Excellent. So let's begin. Obviously, name, who you are, all that good stuff, right?
KyleCherek, storyteller, culinary historian, and the host of the Emmy Award-winning Wisconsin Food.
Why are you here this evening?
I am here because the Taliesin Foundation reached out and requested that I come and wed together the story of Frank Lloyd Wright, of this dynamic place, Taliesin, in another larger geographic and geological dynamic place called the Driftless region, and the story of food and terroir and a sense of place in both organic architecture and organic cuisine.
Tell me a little bit about what we can expect this evening in terms of the cuisine.
Well, we have a legendary chef in Odessa Piper, and then another highly accomplished chef in Evan. I don't remember Evan's last name.
No,
Sorry.
it's okay. Daniels?
Daniels? Daniels? Okay.
All right.
Okay. Well, we have a legendary chef in Odessa Piper, and then another highly accomplished chef in Evan Daniels. Odessa precedes what was going on in Berkeley and Chez Panisse and that sort of thing by about 4 to 5 years in her identification in both cooking with and embracing the local long before we had a term farm to table. She was sourcing from farms and getting fresh chev and working with trout and cooking in this hybrid of upper Midwestern cuisine meets French erudition, and she was doing it in the early 70s. And she is a national treasure, a living national treasure, as is Taliesin, a living, because it is. Architecture is alive. Every time a person walks into it, every time a person sits down into it, every time you exchange breath in a room that was designed, you are part of that living architecture. Odessa is a living treasure. Odessa is a living treasure in the American culinary tradition. So for her to be here, to be quite candid, I would come to Odessa cooking around a campfire in the middle of just about anywhere. For her to be here in this incredibly meaningful and historic location within America, within architecture, within history, within cuisine, there was no way that I could say no.
You have had some fabulous insight on tonight's meal. Can you give us a taste?
Sure. So we start out with a very seasonal squash soup, which is both indicative of how the original settlers would have eaten at this time of year. It's thickened with some great Wisconsin cream, because we do that better than anybody, our dairy. And then we move on. I've got to scan the menu, sorry. Okay. Then we move on to a pasture-raised chicken that is raised right here on the farm, on the organic farm at Taliesin. These healthy birds that taste the way that they're supposed to, because they've been out there eating the bugs and the grubs and the worms and all those things, and exercising and recreating and becoming healthy, sound deliciousness. They are, in some ways, one of the best representations of the perfect balance that Wright advocated for, with ecology and place, and then with the chefs coming together, a pursuit of deliciousness. So from there, we move on to trout, which is incredibly apropos based on the Wisconsin River. It's a regional heritage, our fresh trout, and they're one of those magical fairy tale fish that they're as beautiful in the water as they are when you pull them out. That gorgeous rainbow that goes on their side, that just undulates as they move, and you can feel the life force in them. And then on to a cheese course, and some of the best master cheesemakers in Wisconsin are represented and will be here, which is incredible in its own right, because to get this much talent in one room is dynamic. To have their product in one place, all of which they've donated because of their love for the Taliesin Foundation, is also exceptional. When you consider that Wisconsin continues to win first place awards nationally and internationally in the cheese category, more than Vermont, more than California, more than the nation of France and Italy as of late. And then we wrap up with a classic, but no less humble, sweet apple dessert.
You have a very special role this evening. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So my role tonight, as passed along by the foundation, is to wed together the continuum of food, of place, of the culinary heritage, of the architecture heritage, of the warmth that happens when you sit one chair away from somebody, you can sense their heartbeat, and when you break bread with them, you are that much more closer. Wright built in an organic manner. He stacked the simple upon the simple upon the simple upon the simple, as influenced by nature, which he spelled with a capital N, just the way that some people spell God with a capital N. And when you stack simplicity like that, you get something far more elegant and far more complex. It's more than the sum of its whole. That's evidenced in this place. That's evidenced in his architecture. That's evidenced in what he accomplished in his time on Earth. So I'm here to celebrate that and wed together the bounty on the table and the story of his legacy.
What are you most, out of this amazing meal that is going to be prepared this evening, which course are you most excited about?
That's like trying to pick your favorite Beatles song. No, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. The course that I'm most excited about in this dinner, that's like trying to pick your favorite Beatles song. What I am excited about in this dinner, and what I'm so pleased but also expected from these accomplished chefs, is that the dinner builds in the most natural manner. Each course layers upon the next, and it is not ego-driven. It is not about anything other than a great gustatory experience and a sense of conviviality and an embrace of where things come from, which is here in this fantastic terroir. So to live through that experience across a dinner, which if it's done well is a journey, that throws me to the core. And when that's accomplished well, there's no better way to live.
If you could give someone some advice about how to become engaged in something like this, or in terms of Taliesin, but also Frank Lloyd Wright's philosophies, and through your lens, what advice would you give?
So the advice I would give someone to become engaged in what Taliesin represents and what Frank Lloyd Wright represents, what the Foundation represents, is the same advice that I ended up yielding when I was first asked to speak at this event. I was both delighted and absolutely terrified, because Wright is such a huge, swaying personality. He's a true genius in the very sense, not like Mozart, who was born a prodigy, but he earned his genius through step-by-step process, through the temerity of wanting to be something exceptional, and the setbacks that every human being is improved by. So what I did was I dropped all of my expectations about worrying about trying to pair up with a genius like Wright, and I simply listened to his work. And then phrases and aesthetics and so many things about his life and his work started to just align with me. They made better. There were things that I heard in my childhood. There were things that other people that I admired said. There were things that began to resonate, and I understood him more as a human being than I did as a genius. And through understanding him as that human being, I saw his genius, I believe, in certainly a more depthful light than I ever had.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
I really appreciate your words of insight. Is there anything that I missed that I should have asked you?
That's your show, so I don't think so, but we're good. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Delighted.
Really appreciate
There's perhaps, hello everyone. Hello. There is perhaps no more universal sound to hush adults than a fork on a glass at a fine setting. Good evening, everyone. I'm so delighted to be here. As you heard from the earlier remarks from Mary, my name is KyleCherek. I am a storyteller, I'm a culinary historian, and I am the host of a television show called Wisconsin Foodie, which it has been my great honor and privilege to represent and tell the stories of Wisconsin's culinary heritage and its terrific producers for over a decade. We are here for food. We are here for food and place and its elevation through nature and through architecture. Let's not forget that Taliesin, this very place that we've come to cherish and preserve and work so hard to be certain that it endures, began as a family farm. And the family farm is perhaps, I would argue, the most powerful symbol that Wisconsin has in its evolution. It is, in essence, who we are. It's what we've done It's how we provided for the rest of the world. And the family farm was what Wright used as his vehicle of evolution, of his vehicle of growth, to put forward a philosophy and a style that eventually would be called organic architecture. Now, Taliesin is situated in a region called the Driftless region, and I know you're all so familiar with it if Taliesin is near and dear in your heart, but let's remember that the Nature Conservancy calls the Driftless region, and specifically the Kickapoo Valley, the last great place. There are over 1,800 species that live in great concentration there, some of which have not changed since the Pliocene era. It is ecologically, geographically, geologically incredibly special, incredibly rare. And so that a treasure like this, like Taliesin, should rise out of that as Wright and his genius evolved, I think is no accident. Let's remember that here at Taliesin, we're coming together for food, and we're coming together in a building that Wright designed specifically of this entire area, specifically for the breaking of bread, for the experience of sitting 12 to 18 to 30 inches away from the person next to you, their heartbeat resonating like yours, for that ability to reach out and touch their arm over a meal, for the conviviality of the table. This specific location is what he had intended for exactly what tonight is. And so, in doing so, as you enjoy your terrific courses, you will be celebrating both his legacy, which is a living one. Every time you come into one of his places, and there is a specific place here, and you exchange breath, you breathe in and out between these walls, between this timber, between this sandstone, between the water that's coming in through the air, you are living his architecture. So I would say to you, bon appetit. I would say to you, Prost, should you have a drink in front of you. And I would say to you, welcome to Mr. Wright's table.